international scale. We're talking about the FATF and their guidelines that was issued really, I think it was earlier in the day, just before Bitcoin had crossed that 10K mark. This came out, the announcement that exchanges would have to keep customer or client information on a scale that we haven't seen up until now. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I think that this is something that's been talked about for a while. The Financial Action Task Force, we expected kind of this guidance to come out, and there was going to be recommendations to governments around specifically crypto assets, and people were nervous just in terms of what it might mean. I mean, basically, any time that there's a chance that for regulatory overreach through lack of understanding, the crypto community is going to get nervous. Right. And so the interesting thing about this was the way that the announcement was made. So the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury made a very kind of aggressive statement about how crypto assets and virtual assets would not be allowed to be used by rogue regimes and sympathizers of illicit activities. And these are obviously direct quotes from him. From Mnuchin, yeah, and so it seemed incredibly kind of hostile. And in fact, my first tweet about it was, it's a hell of a way to start a war on crypto. Now, what the interesting thing is that for people who pay attention to these things in great detail and whose job it is to understand the actual implications, so folks like Coin Center and folks like Jake Chervinsky, who's a lawyer in this space, it actually wasn't anything new. And so to the extent that those that kind of talk was aggressive, it was mostly just positioning and reinforcing sentiment. So basically, both Coin Center and Jake echoed this point effectively, that this didn't represent anything in particularly different than what had already what is kind of already the norms, right? And in fact, this kind of seems to reflect a parity with the feelings about FinCEN. He also points out that this body was created specifically to fight money laundering, and specifically with an eye towards terrorism and global terrorism.